everyone! So today I'm going to be telling you about my favourite books. This was not really a request, but I did have a request quite a while ago now, like I think maybe even last year, to do some book recommendations for you, but I don't really know how to do that, like how to just focus and talk about the one book. I feel like the video wouldn't be long enough. So instead I'm just going to tell you all of my favourite books and tell you a little bit about them and show them to you and stuff like that. It turns out I have a lot more favourite books than I thought I did. I have like a whole pile of them all over the bed. So this might actually have to be a 2-part video or something like that, but we'll see how it goes. First one, it's the last book I read actually, but it is Killing for Pleasure by Debbie Marshall. This is about the Snowtown murders, which, you know, is like a real murder thing. I only read about real murders if I read about murders. I didn't phrase that very well, I'm sorry. But yeah, the Snowtown murders is just this bunch of guys from South Australia that kill a bunch of people and put the bodies in barrels, and it's pretty disturbing. They do some pretty messed up stuff. But it is really interesting, and that's why I read it, because they are interesting. So this was really disturbing, but it was very fascinating, and not a book that I would read again, but I did enjoy it, so this is a favourite book of mine. Next one is probably kind of obvious. It's Mushrooms Demystified by David Aurora. Now I have to make a confession about this. I have never actually read this book from the front to the back, like all the pages. I've actually only read it in sections, but I really enjoy it. I love the way that he writes and everything. I don't know, I love it, and it's a good book. I would recommend it if you want to get into mushrooms, because it's a pretty good guide. Pretty much any mushroom interested person or mycologist would suggest this book, I think, and with good reason. So yeah, that one, and there's the back as well. The next one is Lady Cottington's Pressed Fairy Book, and this is awesome. It's by Brian Froud, I believe, who's a really amazing artist. I love his work. He does a lot of fantasy stuff, but I don't know, it's just got a really cool twist to it, like it's that. And it's basically like this kind of journal that's about a girl that presses fairies, kind of like pressing flowers. So she holds the book open like that, and then she waits for a fairy to come along and like step on the book, and then she does that, and she squishes it and kills it, and she's got a pressed fairy. It's that, and then it's kind of journal entries about the book and like it going missing and random stuff like that. But I really enjoyed it. It's really cute, and a lot of parts of it are really funny and awkward, and it's really cool. Anything by Brian Froud is just awesome. And it actually also came with a DVD, which is there. And that was kind of amusing as well, but I won't tell you what happens. But so there's that one. Next one, this is probably one of my most favourite books of all time, The Plucker by Brom. I did talk about this briefly in another video. I think it was a book haul, and that was before I read it, and it is just the most beautiful book you will ever read, I swear. I could not put it down. It's got really cool illustrations all throughout the whole thing, and the story is just all perfect. It's basically about this group of toys that belong to a boy, and it's kind of like a twisted Toy Story almost, but way better. So there's like this Jack in the Box, and he's just called Jack, and he gets sent to the underbed, which is where the like old and forgotten toys and stuff go, and it like kind of makes you an outcast, and he's got to save all the other toys from being eaten or something by this evil spirit. I'm not going to tell you everything because I'll spoil it, but you do find out pretty quickly what it's about, so hopefully that wasn't a spoiler. I might put a little warning back there just in case, but I don't think that counts as a spoiler. This is amazing. I very much recommend this out of all the books. It's perfect, so yeah. Next one, Evernight by Claudia Gray. I know it probably seems extremely cliche, and it's just kind of another one of those vampire novels that came after Stephenie Meyer and Twilight and stuff, and I really like it. It's a whole series, but this one was my favourite book out of all of them. I always seem to prefer the first book, I don't know. To be honest, I can't actually remember everything that happens, because it's been like a few years since I've read it. I think I actually read it when I was about 15 or something, so it's like 4 years ago. From what I remember, I did really enjoy it, and that may have changed by now, but I remember having good memories about it. So yeah, this one. Next one, this is getting really long. This is The Dark Beneath by Alan Gibbons. This is a really interesting book and it's written very, I don't know, just strangely. What I remember, it's been a while since I read this too, but I do remember really enjoying it. About this albino kid, and he takes photos a lot and he puts them all over his wall, I think it is, and he has this crush on a girl who doesn't really like him, and it's a very strange book, but I really like it, and I'm really sorry I can't actually remember everything that happens. I need to read it again, but I would recommend it. It's very odd, but I really like it. I really like the albino kid, he's really interesting. Next favourite one is Stories from Grin, and I'm sure you've probably all heard of Grin before, but if you don't, the Grimm brothers wrote all of the, as far as I'm aware, all of the original fairy tales. So they wrote like Cinderella and Hansel and Gretel and all these other really old stories, and these are like the originals, so they're a bit more twisted and a bit more dark, quite different to how the fairy tales are these days, and it's really interesting to read how they were before. I don't think this is the original, it's just one of the older versions, because I know that over time they do get translated into modern script or something like that, so this is probably an old translated one, but it's closer to the originals than others that I have. But yeah, it's really good. It also has the Elves and the Shoemaker, which I was actually just thinking about, and then it popped up. And that one I actually really enjoy. And it's got like, what's the one with the golden goose or something like that? I can't remember, but yeah, it's really good, and it's sort of short stories, and I really enjoyed this one. I think this will be the last one, and then I'll cut this short and I'll make part 2. Next one is, of course, Gothic Charm School by Gillian Venters. I'm sure pretty much all of you would have seen and read this before. It's amazing, but if you don't, it's pretty much just a book about Goths and for Goths and being well mannered, and yeah, it's like it teaches you it's kind of like goth etiquette. It's really good. It really encourages the idea of being polite to people even when they piss you off, just to prove a point. She also has illustrations in there by her husband, I believe. It's pretty cute. Yeah, and it just covers a lot of the cliches and stereotypes and the fashion and the different subtypes of goth and how to deal with people that are shitheads about you being a goth and all of that awesome stuff, and it's just really good, and it's definitely a book that I would reread, and I don't usually reread books, so yeah. That is part 1 of my favourite books, and yeah, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and you find a cool book out of this that you might want to read, or maybe we like the same books, that'd be pretty cool too. So yeah, I will see you in part 2.